I remember the exact sound it made. A dull splash, heavy, final red wine slid down my cheek, soaked into my collar, pulled at the edge of the tablecloth, like something wounded. The room went quiet in the way rooms do when a line is crossed, and no one wants to admit they saw it. My wife's father lowered the glass slowly, deliberately, like a judge setting down a gavel. Her sister laughed. "First, thanks, Dad," she said, clapping once. "Maybe that'll teach him some respect. Filthy pig." That word stayed in the air longer than the wine stayed on my skin. I didn't blink. Didn't wipe my face. Didn't speak. I felt my hands tighten around the chair. Wood creaked. That was the only sound I made. I stood up. And in that moment, before I made the call that would end everything, they thought they owned. They still believed I was small. The table was set like a performance. Gold-rimmed plates, candles cut low. A fake warmth that only exists in families that trade affection for control. The kind of house where laughter is currency and silence is punishment. I had always been the quiet one. The husband who paid attention. The man who listened more than he spoke. To them that translated into weakness. They spoke over me. Corrected me. Shh about my background like it was a flaw that needed to be managed, and I swallowed it for years. 'Cause I loved my wife. Because I believed patience was strength. Because I thought respect given enough time would be returned. It never is. They didn't see restraint. They saw permission. When the wine hit my face, I watched every reaction. My wife froze. Not shocked, not angry, just still. As if her body was waiting to see which side would win before choosing one. Her mother looked away. A cousin snorted into his napkin. Someone muttered, "It's just a joke." That was the moment something in me detached. Not snap, detached. Like a wire pulled clean from a socket, I smiled. That confused them. I stepped away from the table, took my phone from my pocket, and walked toward the hallway. My shoes left red footprints on marble, they polished twice a week. Behind me, I heard someone whisper my name. I didn't turn around. I dialed one number. It rang once. "Activate clause 7, I said. Immediately, I hung up and I went back to the table. They were still laughing when I sat down, nervous now. Unsure why. I wasn't exploding the way they expected. People who enjoy humiliation get uncomfortable when it doesn't land. I dabbed my mouth with a napkin. "Happy New Year," I said. My wife stared at me like she was seeing a stranger try on my face. Dinner continued. Forced, awkward. They didn't know that while they were cutting roast beef, their world had already begun to tilt. I didn't raise my voice, didn't issue threats, didn't storm out. That would have been mercy. Instead, I went silent. For the next 2 weeks, I became invisible. I answered emails, took calls, signed documents, smiled at my wife, kissed her forehead before bed, and I pulled threads. Her father owned 3 businesses, all successful, all leveraged, all dependent on relationships I had quietly built for him over years. Introductions, financing, contracts, he never bothered to ask how I secured. He liked to think he was self-made. He wasn't. The first call came on a Tuesday. A bank declined a renewal. No explanation, just risk reassessment. The second came Thursday. A supplier paused shipments indefinitely. By Friday, his largest client postponed a contract signing that had been guaranteed. He called me that night. I didn't answer. Panic changes people. It strips away arrogance and leaves only need. He showed up at my door the following Monday. No wine, no jokes, just sweat and confusion. "You work with numbers," he said. "You understand these things. Something's wrong." I looked at him the way he had looked at me across that table. Patient, assessing, unimpressed. "I'm sure it's nothing," I said. "Just a joke." He didn't laugh. The unraveling wasn't fast. I made sure of that. Fast is suspicious. Slow feels like fate. Regulators started asking questions. Old favors evaporated. Deals stalled, then died. The sister lost her job when the company sponsoring her position cut funding. She cried on social media about betrayal and injustice. I watched quietly. My wife began to notice the shift. The late night calls, the tension. The way her family suddenly spoke to me. With caution instead of contempt. She asked me once carefully, "Did you do something?" I met her eyes. "No," I said, and that was true. I didn't do something. I stopped doing everything. The final confrontation came uninvited. They gathered in my living room like refugees from their own arrogance. Her father sat forward, hands clasped. The sister wouldn't meet my gaze. Even her. Mother looked smaller, he said. I let the silence stretch. You threw wine in my face, I said finally. On New Year's, I was angry. You taught your daughter to laugh. I continued and she called me a pig. The sister flinched. I don't remember an apology, I said. Do you? No one spoke. I didn't raise my voice. I went on. I didn't retaliate publicly. I didn't embarrass you. I leaned forward. I simply stepped aside and let the truth show itself. What do you want? He asked. There it was, the surrender. I stood. I want you to remember this feeling. I said, every time you consider disrespecting someone you think is beneath you. I opened the door. You'll recover, I added. Eventually, but you'll never forget who you underestimated. They left without another word. My wife stayed. She sat on the couch long after the door closed. You planned this? She said, yes. She nodded slowly, not approving, not condemning, just understanding that the man she married was not the man her family tried to break. I wish you'd warned me, she said. I wish you'd defended me, I replied. That was the end of that conversation.